Today we're testing out the newest board coming from Backfire, the G2T. Woo. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things, and it is finally electric skateboard season again. The weather has finally broke just a little bit, and I have some pretty cool boards to bring you guys throughout this spring and summer. Now we're starting off with a newer model of a board that I reviewed in the past. The previous one passed my personal test with flying colors. I think it was a great board, and it was definitely one that I could recommend. So this one has some slight improvements, and chances are this thing is going to be a little bit better. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Backfire G2T. So to rattle off a couple quick specs of this board, some things that they improved were starting with the trucks. These are now caliber 2 50-degree trucks, and just judging by the look of them, I can tell that they are definitely going for quality here. This is a dual hub motor board with two 350 watt in-hub motors. This model is using the 36 volt 6 amp hour Samsung battery, and the combination of those things should give this thing a range of about 15 miles and a top speed of 23.5 miles per hour. They're getting pretty specific there. The Galaxy G2T should be able to conquer grades of up to 25%. I have some pretty steep hills around here, so we will definitely be putting that to the test. And this thing comes in at about 14.5 pounds, which is a little bit on the lighter side when compared to some other options out there. So now that we're talking about specs and my personal tastes and preferences with what I do to test boards, I have finally put together a complete comprehensive list of every electric vehicle that I've tested so far on the channel. I'm not sure if I'm going to just pop it up right here. You can pause the video and take a look at it if you want, or maybe I will publish it on my website, talonsci.com, or maybe just leave a Google Drive link in the description down below. But if you want to check out the previous Backfire specs and everything else that I've tested on the channel, you can check that out. A ton of people ask me, yo, what is the best skateboard? And it's kind of subjective. There's a lot of different factors when going into it, as far as price and top speed and range and weight. There's just a lot of different factors. So hopefully you guys can take all of the information that I've kind of put together and make an informed decision on your own. Now back to the Backfire G2. I already am a fan of this board. I can definitely tell just by looking at skateboards now that they have a quality product. Out of the wide variety of boards that I've tested, I have an eye now that I can just basically look at a board and pretty much tell if it's gonna be good from the start or not. Backfire actually included a lot of accessories with this board, which a lot of companies do, and for the most part they're just like kind of cheap accessories like lights and different wheels and stuff like that. One thing that I did actually do was swap out for the bigger wheels. People wanted to see me test that on the previous one, which I did not do, but today I'm doing that. So this board came with the 83 millimeter wheels installed, and now I bumped up to the 96 millimeter. These wheels are huge. They should be good for sucking up cracks and stuff in the bad roads around here, but also I think that will increase the top speed just slightly. Now as far as the accessories go, they have charging cables and obviously everything that you need to get this thing up and running, but they also included a light. Now this is a light that you can mount to the front of the board on top here, right like this, and you guys know that I do a lot of flashlight reviews and stuff like that. This is actually a pretty decent light. There are a few different modes. It is USB rechargeable. You simply turn it on up here, high, medium, and low. There's a strobe mode, and like I said, it is rechargeable. This thing is some sort of metal housing, I believe. There is a little bit of plastic on the back here, but overall it feels like a really solid unit. Now I really don't ride at night, and I really don't ride as much as I used to. I'm basically only using skateboards for fun now, but I also like to test them out, push them to the limits, and let you guys know how they actually perform. So one other thing that they did change was the remote. There are a few different modes on here. There is an eco mode, a sport mode, and then they even included this new thing that they call turbo mode, which I will talk about that once we start riding. Speaking of that, you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk already, so let's head out to the streets in the town that I ride in, that everyone makes fun of because it's like a ghost town, but it's good. Not many cars, not many people. I can kind of shred wherever I want to go. Let's do it. All right guys, the board turns on the same way as always. There's a button on the bottom there, lights up, LED, so you know that it is on. One thing that's already a plus of this board, it kind of takes after the old one, is the tiny little bit of a kicktail. There's not a whole lot there, but there is enough to do this. To set the board down slowly with your foot without it slamming. It's not super good for the components to do that. To turn the controller on, you press the top button here, press and hold. There is a little LED screen on here so you can see, looks like the board battery, miles per hour, trip, and then also what mode you're riding in. So I will kind of look at this and compare it to my actual specs. I do judge this through an app on my phone. I will leave a link for it in the description down below. A ton of people ask me about it. Now the board itself flexes a little bit. It feels just like the old one actually. That is something that is definitely personal preference, and I think it works good for me. For reference, I'm about 175, 180 pounds, and that will also affect the specs in the end. So let's put this thing in eco mode and take off. The first thing that I already noticed is that for an eco mode with these bigger tires, this actually feels pretty nice. Maybe because I haven't really stepped foot on a electric skateboard in a while, but it feels really smooth. The acceleration curve is nice with the thumb wheel. And even for a beginner, I think this is a comfortable speed to just kind of cruise around, get where you need to go, and get the most mileage out of the board. Let's check out the brakes real quick. Pretty good. I wouldn't say they're the strongest brakes ever. It's not throwing me off of the board. But now I'm gonna bump it up into the sport mode. One simple press on the selection and yeah, we should be good now. That may have already been a little bit of a top speed run there. We were going slightly up a hill and this said that we were going 29 kilometers per hour. Felt pretty quick, but let me check the app real quick. It already says we've done a max speed of 20 miles per hour, so that's pretty good, and I think we're going to be able to go even a little bit faster than that. Skateboard with some smaller wheels, I would have just died right there. All right, now we're at the bottom of a pretty long hill where I like to test a lot of these boards. I would say this is definitely a 25% grade, and I want to talk about a few things on the controller quick. The first simple one being is that there's a switch on the bottom here if you want to put this thing in reverse. I typically don't need that on boards, but it's nice to have it there if you want it. And then also this little caution triangle down here, if I press that, it will put the board into turbo mode for 30 seconds. What they say that this does is it increases the acceleration, so I think that should be good for going up a hill. They say that it does not actually increase the top speed, and then after the 30 seconds it will take itself out of that mode, probably because it sucks more power and then it needs a little bit of a cool down time. So for this hill, I'm going to press it once to put it into that mode, and then I'm going to try to make it all the way to the top to see if we can do it. I'll press this once. That S now turns into the caution sign, and we should be good to go. Definitely feels like a little bit more power there, especially since we were on this hill, and we are cruising up it right now. Let's not get hit by a car here. Oh, okay, just took itself out of turbo mode as I crossed the street there. Okay, it's not gonna go back into it, probably because it is a preventative measure, taking too much power. But let's see if we can continue in the regular sport mode. Even though I lost a bunch of momentum there, I still think we're gonna do it. Made it about halfway. We're doing a pretty consistent, like 10 miles an hour up here. It's hard to tell on video how steep this is, but I do see quite a few boards struggle with this. So for a dual hub motor board, I'd say this is definitely good. And we made it. We're now heading back down this hill. We're gonna test out the brakes, maybe regen a little bit of that power back, and hopefully they work all the way to the bottom. Oh yeah, the brakes are much stronger now that I'm in sport mode. All right, I'm gonna check in real quick. I feel like I've gone maybe 5 miles or so. Not quite. All right, we're at about 4.5. Max speed 22 miles per hour or close to it. This thing is feeling really solid, which is what I kind of expected because their last board was good as well. Now that I am in a flatter area, what I'm going to do is test out that turbo mode again. I feel like it wasn't quite fair testing it on that super steep hill. So I'm gonna stop here in a second. I'm gonna put this into the turbo mode again. I'm gonna give one push and then test the acceleration. I'm actually afraid to hit this speed bump going that fast. Okay, yeah, the turbo mode definitely has something going on with it. Feels good, man. I was actually uncomfortable with hitting these speed bumps. Going that fast, I was probably going like 21.5 miles per hour. This thing's got the power. Now let's see if it has the distance. I'm gonna keep riding this thing around. Maybe I'll bump it down into eco mode just a little bit, but I'm gonna push this thing to its limits and I will come back and let you guys know my final thoughts. All right guys, back for some final thoughts on the Backfire G2T. I'm gonna start off by checking the app. First, we're gonna look at the old board specs because I still got them saved. I tested this one back in November, it looks like, and it was the G2S. So this obviously was not ideal conditions, but the old one went a distance of 9.44 miles per hour and a max speed of 20.29. The battery life suffered a little bit on that one because it was cold, but now the new one in more ideal conditions. Today we went a distance of 13.66 miles, a total time of a little over an hour, and a max speed of 21.74 miles per hour. Now typically when board manufacturers are coming up with the specs that they actually list on their website, they get a little bit generous. They tend to test these things in like super ideal conditions with a very light rider in the lowest mode, so like an eco mode, maybe like a flat track, and that is where a lot of times you get these inflated numbers. Backfire, however, it seems like they were testing this in a very real world condition because like myself, I'm 175, 180 pounds, and the roads that I was riding on here were absolutely not ideal. There were some big hills. This is a very hilly, mountainous area. I would say everywhere that I rode today would be a little bit more difficult than someone's normal commute. Obviously, everyone is going to vary. However, this board did really well. It had a gradual death. It probably still has about 10% battery left. Yeah, it's still gonna go. The battery does show depleted, and at 25%, it did give me a nice little buzz of a warning. It seems like the odometer and the speed on here might be a little bit off, but that's sort of to be expected. You can actually change the remote to reflect what size wheels you have on here. And overall, this thing definitely lived up to at least what I judge my boards based off of. Now the price point on this one is coming in at $5.99 right now, which I actually believe is a very good value. I would put this sort of in like the mid-level tier of boards. You have anything under like $400, I put that on the budget board side. And then you have this sort of range, which is between 500 and say maybe 800. And then you get to the top tier boards where you're looking at like 1,000 plus for some very premium stuff. Like I said in the beginning, check out that list so you can compare boards based off of your price point or your mileage, your top speed, whatever you are looking for out of your boards. There's a lot of comparing and contrasting to do. There are pros and cons to every board out there, but again, Backfire has a good product here, and this is definitely one that I think that I can recommend. This thing was fast, it lived up to the specs. The only thing that I might change on it is the deck. The deck is a little bit stiff for my liking, but it is very unique. I do like that they stuck with the same shape for this one. The caliber truck upgrade was definitely a nice touch. This thing was super smooth, very quiet. And Backfire, if you're watching this, awesome job. I definitely like the board. Just riding this thing today is making me excited for what else is to come. There are some new boards on the market and I will probably be testing them out. It's cool to sort of see the evolution of these things year after year because they're only getting better, and I can't wait to see what else is next. So if you guys have any questions on this board, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any questions on which board is right for you, like I said, check out that little spreadsheet that I put together and I will make it available to you somewhere. I believe that's all that I got for today. So if you're new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every week and there's some more electric skateboard content coming to you soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.